Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. First of all, let's hear it for the Rotary Brass Band. Thank you for your talent and beautiful music. My name is Joe Schmidt. Some of you may recognize me as the longtime sports anchor on Channel 5. I recently also became, thank you. I should get a hand for that. That's a I just want to tell you, I recently became a certified grief counselor. I'm kind of proud of that. You see, I'm used to dealing with pain and agony. I've been covering Minnesota professional sports for 30-some years. But it is an honor to be here to honor the great veterans of this country at the 2023 Veterans Day Lunch. Thank you all for being here. Let's meet some of the dignitaries who are joining us today. From Eden Prairie, the Mayor, Ron Case. Edina Mayor, Jim Hovland. My mayor in Bloomington, Tim Bussey. Hennepin County Sheriff, Dewana Witt. And next year's District Governor, Sharon Bloodworth. And most of all, a special welcome to all the veterans and current members of the military who are with us today. Would you please stand so we can give you a round of applause? My father was 17 years old, and he lied about his age to enlist in the Navy and served at the tail end of World War II and served on the USS Downs, a ship that was taken down in the invasion on Pearl Harbor. My father-in-law, Roger Truman Saar, served in World War II in the Army. He was in the end of the Battle of the Bulge, and he met the Russians at the Elbe River, which kind of ended the war. My brother-in-law, Drew, was a JAG in Desert Storm. People who give of themselves and expect nothing in return make an impact. We are filled today, this room is filled today, with the people who have made an impact, and that's why we're here to honor you. To all the brave men and women of the military, thank you for your service. Your sacrifices have ensured our freedom and way of life. We are forever grateful for your courage, dedication, and patriotism. As we approach the Veterans Day, we recognize and honor your service to the country. We thank you for putting your lives on the line to protect us. We are humbled by your selflessness and bravery. May we also and always remember the sacrifices you made for our freedom. May we honor those who have served and may also strive to be worthy of their service. Thank you so much. We received a letter from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, which I'd like to read right now on this day. Dear Minnesotans, on Veterans Day, we share our gratitude for those who have served this country to preserve the freedoms that Minnesotans hold dear. These individuals and their families put their lives on hold and on the line for all of us. As a 24-year veteran of the National Guard, today holds special meaning for me. I witness firsthand truly inspiring selflessness and dedication to our nation among my fellow service members. They answer the call to protect our nation without hesitation or reservation. As our service members and veterans transition back into civilian life, their support network of families and friends are more important right now than ever. As we celebrate November 23 as Military Family Month, let us also take a moment to reflect on the sacrifices made by military families as well. We have a strong record of prioritizing our veterans in the North Star State, from providing service bonuses to post-9/11 era veterans and Gold Star families, to increasing support for veteran education and training programs through the Minnesota GI Bill. The past legislative session also worked on addressing the most pressing needs facing our veterans today, ending veteran homelessness, expanding efforts to reduce veteran suicide, and providing access to quality care in our state veterans' homes. The state of Minnesota remains committed to recognizing, honoring, and remembering our veterans. They deserve our strongest support. To all who have served, Minnesotans from every corner of this great state, thank you. Today we honor your sacrifice, and may your service be an inspiration for all of us. Sincerely, Tim Walz, Governor of the state of Minnesota. Now I'd like to introduce our current Rotary District Governor, Julie Grape, to invite up to the podium. Julie.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here. We're going to do a little bit, if you're following along in the program, we'll have a couple of small switches at the beginning. I'm honored to be here. Veterans Day has always been really, really important to me because 3 of my 4 brothers have served in the military and all retired either from the reserves or from active duty in the Air Force. I was told not to go into the military because apparently I'm not good at following orders. So I'm one of our family who did not, but I greatly respect the service of my brothers. Ronald Reagan once said that freedom is never more than 1 generation away from extinction. We can't pass freedom down from generation to generation in our bloodstream. It has to be fought for, it has to be protected, and it has to be handed on from one generation to another. So for the generations of American veterans who have fought, who have fallen, and who continue to fight, we are so grateful for your service. Thank you for protecting our freedom. And thank you. And next, I'd ask everybody to stand as the Hopkins VFW Post 425 performs the presentation of the colors. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to welcome the Eden Prairie High School Choir as they sing our national anthem.
Stripes and bright
Thank you. That was wonderful. And we have one more thing to do, and then you can sit down. So first of all, lastly, on my part, we're going to be doing the four-way test. For the non-Rotarians in the room, the four-way test is 24 words that we Rotarians believe are the standard by which all behavior should be judged. So for those of you who are Rotarians in the room and those of you who can read, we'll do the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Joe.
I thank you, Julie. Now let's have a warm welcome for the mayor of Eden Prairie, Ron Case.
Thank you, Joe. And I read in the bulletin here that I'm supposed to welcome you to Eden Prairie. So welcome to Eden Prairie. I believe we're the 12th largest city in Minnesota. I think along with Bloomington and Edina, we're the best. I do want to do a call out to my colleagues. We have a great regional mayor group that meets regularly. We're on a text thread anytime there are issues developing. We're quite close to each other. I would say how do I say this ever so respectfully, the paternal, the most, not the most senior, but the one we always look to, Jim Hovland, Mayor of Edina. He's amazing, as you all know. And Tim Bussey is as well. I want to congratulate Tim. Re-election on Tuesday. He won, well, I'm going to say 60. I think it was tucked right under, but 60% of the vote. That's an incredible win, so congratulations. Also, I don't know if Joe realizes we have a connection. I know you're looking at me, you're not sure. So my wife grew up in Bloomington, but she had grandparents that lived, you're going to get this immediately, in Minneapolis, but had a cabin in Encampment Forest. You got it now, which is up north of Two Harbors on Lake Superior that she went to for 15 years of her childhood. Her grandfather sold that to a Roger Starr, who was, I think, his attorney or almost like a son, who is Joe's father-in-law. And so Joe and his wife owned my wife's cabin then for 20-some years, and we visited a couple times when you weren't there, walked around it, but I didn't go in it. Anyway, when I would see Joe on the news, it was a connection to my wife and me. We're all pretty familiar now with the origins of Veterans Day coming from Armistice Day, which was set back in 1926. And that had evolved, of course, from the signing of the World War I peace treaty on the 11th hour, 11th day, 11th month of 1918. But what you might not be aware of is that the ceremonies that were already occurring each November 11th in the early 1920s were at Arlington National Cemetery, and they were honoring an American soldier that had been buried there. So people had begun to gather near this young man's grave overlooking the Potomac River as a way of remembering the end of the Great War, but also honoring the sacrifices that so many Americans made defending freedom. So that's really what Veterans Day is all about, isn't it? Remembering, acknowledging, honoring the commitment, the loyalty, and the sacrifices made by millions and millions of our mostly young men and women, meaning mostly young, over the last 257 years of our existence as an independent nation, at least by declaring independence. So I'm not a veteran, but like so many of you, two of you that have spoken here today, our family trees are filled with people who served in prior wars. My father was in the Navy during World War II. My grandfather fought on the front lines in France, Alsace-Lorraine. I have a great uncle who fought in the Spanish-American War. I have two great-great-grandfathers and one great-great-great-grandfather that fought in the Civil War. On both sides, we won't go into that at the moment, and the list goes on and on. my family goes back to the Mayflowers, so I just haven't found that Revolutionary War person yet, but I'm looking. Thank you to all of you for attending today's luncheon here in Eden Prairie. Thank you to the Rotary Clubs for making the honoring of veterans a priority to your organizations. Definitely thank you to all the veterans here today. Thank you for the gift of your service to all of us. We honor you today and every day that we breathe in the fresh air of freedom and liberty and hope. So God bless all of us here today, and God bless America.
You know, Ryan, we have a security system up at that cabin. And when you run for mayor again, your opponent's getting that video. Do you want to vote for your trespasser as mayor? Okay. We are so happy to have Area 3 clubs in attendance, and when I announce your club, let's hear a little holler, maybe a little hoot and a holler. First of all, our host, Eden Prairie Noon. Good energy, but I think Eden Prairie AM can do better. Minnesota Veterans. That's right. Let's get a pot of coffee back to the table, please. Minnesota Pride. Thank you. Edina Noon. Edina Morningside. Bloomington Noon. And South Metro Minneapolis. All right. I see a merger happening with the Minnesota veterans there. We're glad you could all join us here to honor our veterans. At this time, the VFW Post 425 from Hopkins has a special presentation they would like to make.
For those who have served in the uniformed services of our United States, are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. While we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and internment. Upon entering the hall today, you may have noticed a solitary table in the back. It is set for a meal, but will not be used. We now pause and call attention to this special table. We will honor and bear witness to those for whom this table is set and cannot join us today. Our brothers and sisters for whom this table is set are called prisoners of war and missing in action. We call them comrades. This table is set for one, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her oppressors. The table is round, showing our everlasting concern for our prisoners of war and missing in action, our comrades. Remember, the cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of the men and women whose motives and their motives when answering the call to duty. Remember, the single red rose, reminding us of the lives of these men and women, their loved ones and friends who keep the faith while seeking answers. Remember, the red ribbon, symbolizing our continued determination to account for them. Remember, a slice of lemon reminds us of the bitter fate of those missing, captured, and held as prisoners of war in foreign lands. Remember, a pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and their families who long for answers with decades of uncertainty. Remember, the candle is reminiscent of the light of hope which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to the open arms of a grateful nation. Remember, the glass is inverted to symbolize their inability to share today's toast. Remember, The chair is empty. They are missing. Please remember their service and sacrifice. Remember. Thank you.
As we come back, we're going to take a musical trip down memory lane. We're once again going to be joined by the Rotary Brass Band for their Armed Service Medley. When you hear your anthem, and I'm sure you'll recognize it, stand as you can to recognize the song. All right, take it away, Mary. United States Army. United States Marine Corps. United States Navy. United States Air Force. United States Coast Guard. United States Space Force. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear for the Rotary Brass Band for a wonderful job. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd please like to welcome Eden Prairie Noon member Holly Callan.
Hi, thank you, Joe. As Joe said, I am a proud Rotarian, 32 years, and a member of Eden Prairie Noon. Yay! And some of you, I see some white hair in the room. Some of you people may remember that I was district governor 22 years ago, way back in 2001, too. But I haven't died yet, so I'm still here. Today I have a very special honor. I get to introduce our speaker. Now, I've known Tim for about 12 years, I would say. And when I first met him, he was in the process of founding Trinity Sober Homes in St. Paul, currently with 3 homes and a retreat center in southern Minnesota. And at that time, I was really appreciated what he was doing, and he asked me to join the board, and I did so. I stayed for about 5 years as the token woman on the board, and then I left mainly because I had too many Rotary jobs, and I had to focus on my Rotary work. And then I heard about the plan to start Bravo Zulu House, and I said to Tim, can I come back? So I rejoined, as still the token woman, the Trinity Sober Homes Board, and I am now one of the founding members of the Bravo Zulu House Board, which Bravo Zulu House will be is a separate 501c3 organization. But the reason that I wanted to do this was because I recognized some of the horrible problems our veterans have been facing. We read about it in the papers, but none of us seem to know what to do, including some of our leadership that's trying, but not getting it quite right into how we can help our veterans. The suicide numbers are just way too high. Bravo Zulu, I think, has an answer. I'm not going to say the answer, but has an answer. And it's based on what we've learned from Trinity. And I'm going to let Tim tell you about it, but I do want you to remember that Trinity Sober Homes has the highest sober result after 1 year of living there, still sober, at 71%, the highest in the country. Now, when you realize that the average in our country is in the 25-30%, this is astronomical. And they must be doing something right. So when we take the pieces that we've learned through Trinity over the last 12 years and apply the good stuff, but add to it some special sauce that is specific to the problems that our veterans are having, I think we have something that not only will be the very first veteran-only, veteran-specific sober house in the country, but that is easily replicable throughout the United States. And when I looked at that, I went, well, wait a minute. There are Rotary clubs all over the United States. I can see, you remember how polio started? One club came up with an idea. We, people in this room, and the rest of our district can be the founders of Bravo Zulu House and spread it to Rotary clubs throughout the United States and help many, 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 many of our veterans. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim Murray, who is the executive director of Trinity Sober Homes, and let him tell you about this exciting opportunity. Tim. Forgot to mention he's a new Rotarian, so make sure you're
So I'm so new. I haven't even opened my shirt yet. So I was torn between wearing my Bravo Zulu or my new Rotarian shirt. So we're going to do a little stage shift. So any of you who have experience with technology and speaking, you might appreciate the fact that we have to get closer, otherwise the slides won't move. So we thought this is at best going to be a comic moment, and hopefully this will work. So my name is Tim Murray. I'm an alcoholic. I am also the executive director of Trinity Sober Homes, which is the parent of Bravo Zulu House. I'd like to start by echoing the sentiment of our empty table by just taking a moment to realize that in the time that this event has been going on, 2 veterans have taken their lives in this country. So depending on the numbers you look at, it's between 22 and 44 a day, probably even higher if you count other sort of ancillary related. So what we're going to be talking about today, on one hand, is very exciting and very encouraging. It's also a real problem, and for any of those who have been affected by this, I hope that you can relate and in some way find a way to support us. So we're going to see how this works. So far, so good. So we're going to start out with a short video, and then we'll pick it up from there. This is about a 1-minute video.
We need to win the war on veteran suicides. The VA reports 75 to 95% of veterans struggling with PTSD abuse drugs and alcohol. Therefore, a key root cause of veteran suicide is lack of sobriety. Equally disturbing, there are virtually 0 all-military sober housing options either in Minnesota or nationally. We have a solution. Introducing Bravo Zulu House, a unique sober housing facility focused exclusively on the needs of our veterans. Located in a peaceful rural setting, Bravo Zulu House provides our veterans with an opportunity to heal up, get stronger, feel better. Bravo Zulu House is operated by the nation's leading sober home provider, Trinity Sober Homes. Trinity was founded by Colonel Father Martin Fleming and has the highest post-treatment recovery rate in the nation at 71%. Our veterans deserve better. If you've been wanting to help, here's your chance. Click here to give or learn more about Bravo Zulu House.
So I met an amazing man, Colonel Father Martin Fleming. Back when I used to be who I thought I was a big deal, and if you didn't think so, just ask me, I would have told you. So after spending some time on Wall Street and coming back here, I dived into the bottom of a bottle and spent most of my 40s drinking, ended up at the age of 50, let's just call it homeless, drunk, and not very welcome at most, definitely not Edina Country Club, Bear Path, right. I think I've been kicked out of all those, in fact, if I think about it. So Father Fleming and the Kingsmen put this Humpty Dumpty back together again. And Father used to like to mix his military and his Catholic terms. Father was the Army General Chaplain under Colin Powell. So all the chaplains in the U.S. Army reported to him. He then reported to General Powell. And he sat me down one day after living with him for about 6 months. By the way, I lived with Father for 2 years, and he will tell you it was the longest 10 years of his life. And you're probably already picking that up on my personality, like, yeah, I can see that. Whew. So he sat me down and he said, he was at the time 87 years old, and he liked to be underestimated, something I'm not familiar with, but he actually had humility. And he liked to just sort of sit and go, Tim, I've received inside word that my transfer papers to purgatory are being processed, and I'd like you to join me on a mission to roll out a series of faith-based sober houses. What do you think? So I tell people, if you think it's hard to say no to a priest, try saying it was also a colonel. So, I was like, well, Father, I'm probably mentioned to you I'm kind of a big deal, or at least I thought I was, and I want to go back to trying to be a big deal. And I said, give me one really good reason why I should do this. And without even hesitating, he said, Tim, as I have done for you, please go forth and do to others. And you ever heard like an answer where you're like, oh, dang it, box, all right? So that has started a 13-year journey. The other thing to point out is I was 52 at the time, and he was 87. Math people in the room, pay attention, 52, 87. And when he sat me down, he said, Tim, I've been praying that somebody would come along. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I'm hoping that God would drop somebody in my path that I could hand the baton off to, and I'd like you to join me on this mission and sign up for a 35-year stint. And, of course, my immediate response was going to be, 35, I'll be 80. Dang it. So he cut me off at the pass there. So if you're curious, I'm 13 years into the 35-year commitment, so I only have 22 to go, so we're off to a good start. And in the last 13 years, what we've done is basically built a platform, and you've heard a little bit about the results. Some of the numbers are we've got the highest post-treatment recovery rate in the nation. That's basically counted by when you touch somebody, are they still sober a year later? We've got 50 beds in 4 homes, soon to be 5, and we'll have a total of 63. Our secret sauce is really a combination of spiritual coaching, private rooms, and beautiful homes. We also focus on men that are 40 and over. So we find that men are at that age are a little bit more serious about wanting to finally do something about this problem. We've served over 450 men. About 100 of those have sort of accidentally been veterans. We're a 501c3. Cash flow is pretty simple. About 20% of our money comes from donations. The rest, men are required to pay rent. They pay roughly $850 a month. They're required to work, have a job, volunteer 30 hours a week. So we want to get them back out in the community and become productive. If you're interested in our information, as a nationally recognized, you can look us up online. We've got 10 years of positive, cash flow. I don't know if I mentioned I was a big shot on Wall Street. So anyways, part of what we're trying to do is make sure we run this. I don't know about you, but a lot of people would say, God, if they just ran this nonprofit like a business, this thing would be a lot better, right? Well, we're trying to do that. So basically, and the highest paid person, by the way, in the organization makes $1,000 a month. So we're not doing this for the money, and we try to plow all of our money back into the organization. So here's the problem. Last year, 3 million people went to treatment. So some of you may know somebody who's got drugs and alcohol problem. 3 million people in this country went to treatment last year, all right? 90% of those people, by the way, have health insurance. So we're not talking about the sort of what might be perceived as the chronic veteran homeless population. These are people who look just like people in this room. And I know some of you from AA, I won't mention your names, so I know that you know exactly what we're talking about here. So you went to one of the 15,000 treatment centers. 12% of those were veterans. 360,000 veterans went to treatment last year. This disease affects men to women about a 2-to-1 ratio, so that means 240,000 men aged 43 on average, or 20,000 men a month. 20,000 veteran men a month are coming out of treatment and will be to the horizon for at least the next 10 years. 20,000 people a month, okay? So that's a big number. And if you're a business person and you're looking at well, what's the size of the problem? We're trying to fill 13 beds, 20,000 a month, 13. Seems like, we ought to be able to make an impact. We're not going to solve the problem, but we do think we've got a blueprint. So one of the questions that I get asked often is, well, where's ground zero then for homelessness, for veterans? Well, I'll tell you where it is. It's the day that guy walks out of treatment. It's the day that guy walks out of treatment and he's got no place to go. So after 30 days in treatment, he comes out, he's stark raving sober, no resources, no focus, no place to go. Where would you end up? That's right where you'd end up, is at the bar, and then eventually you're going to be right back out on the street or out on the street. So here's the gap. So we already talked a little bit about committing suicide. Most of you probably know about that. Probably most of you know that somehow in some way PTSD is connected to these guys, right? So you're probably aware of that. What most of you may not know is that 70 to 90% of those guys, mostly men, according to the VA, self-reported to somebody at the VA saying, I am abusing drugs and alcohol as the only effective tool that I can use to deal with my PTSD. So when we took a look at this, I'm like, so doesn't that mean we got to get these guys sober first? Because if you've ever been around somebody who's in active addiction, you might as well be pouring water on a rock. So any of our efforts right now to try to treat these guys who are also dealing with drugs and alcohol, and according to this, it's most of them, those guys got zero chance. I mean zero chance of ever getting sober and getting it right. So our brilliant idea, by the way, for those of you in business, you know that success and failure looks identical at the starting line. So right now, this is a brilliant idea, okay? So from January to June, I spent 150 meetings talking to anybody who said, I care about helping veterans. I am not a veteran. My father was a paratrooper and a paratroop instructor at Fort Campbell. My son is a major, soon to be a lieutenant colonel. I was a long-haired hippie from McAllister in the 70s who made some very bad decisions at that time. And I see this as an opportunity to partner with our veteran organizations. We've got the full support of both the state and the local Legion, the VFW, and the DAV. So basically, one of the things we asked was, doesn't it make sense that lack of sobriety is the root cause here? And the more I started to ask the question, I started also asking, well, where are your sobriety programs? And except for a few beds here and there really aren't any. So if you can imagine, you're like, come on, this can't be this obvious, right? So rather than, everybody likes to whine and complain about big institutions, whether it's the VA or others, and I'm like, I'm all about solutions. So I just got a bunch of us together and said, look, we can't not do something about that. Plus, I got to admit, I got a little Catholic guilt in me, and I knew that Father would say, Tim, you can either complain about this or do something about it. Pick one, So we decided to do something about it. So our main theme is basically, look, we think that sobriety is the key to treating PTSD. The problem is no place in the country can you go, particularly as a veteran, if you want to be with other veterans, and that tends to be a theme. Vets like to be with vets. So if I don't get sober first, but also immediately, think of it as a coin, heads, tails, I got PTSD, I got drugs and alcohol, so I can get sober. What are you going to do for my PTSD? There's no place in the country that I can go and where I can get help. I'm basically thrown out into the system, and I have to self-navigate to figure out where to go and how to do it. And if any of you tried to navigate through either the VA or a typical healthcare system, it's really hard. So basically, with the help of these organizations, so we've spent the last really 3 months getting partnership. Butch Whitehead, who runs DAV, Mike Maxa, who runs the American Legion, and then a bunch of the local, both Legion and VFWs, and basically have said, look, we're not asking for money yet. What I am asking for is, will you endorse us, right? Because part of this is, let's first make sure that A, our veteran brothers think this is a problem, and B, they want to help. Because we selected Southern Minnesota, and the reality is the first feedback I got from down there was, you ain't from around here, are you, boy? And second is, the first question I would ask when I went to, are you a veteran? No, sir. Right? And I was like, okay, so let me get this right. You're not from here, and you're not a veteran. I'm not listening to you. So I thought, well, we got to fix that. So we've now fixed that. So we've got this house. We've purchased a house. It's in Martin County. It's a beautiful 6-bedroom farmhouse, and we're going to remodel it. We're going to spend the winter raising capital, money for the remodeling. This spring, we'll break ground, and we hope to open by next fall. Our target's next fall. So basically, if you're familiar with the area, we're just north of Fairmont, just south of Winnebago, just a little bit north of Blue Earth. We're within 30 minutes of VA healthcare. Within a 30-minute radius, there are, as of yesterday, 4,216 open jobs on Indeed. So we're pretty sure we'll be able to, in fact, I have a number of employers already. I was speaking with the Fairmont Chamber of Commerce last evening, and one of the guys comes up afterwards and goes, can we get their resumes first before anybody comes in? I said, for a big enough donation, absolutely. So we gotten our secure support. I've already raised about $250, so we've purchased the house. We've got a local team because obviously, like politics, all fundraising tends to be local. Holly's been kind enough to suggest that maybe there's an opportunity to have a number of Rotary groups partner. That would be great. She's going to talk in a minute about what some of those projects might be. We're going to be spending the winter basically raising some money, so some of you may have an interest in participating in that. That's great. I've learned that if you want $100, all you need is a $100 relationship. You want $10,000, you got to build a $10,000 relationship. You want $1 million? You got to build $1 million relationship. So we're taking our time. We're finding the right people. And we're basically working with them to see how would you like to participate with this project. If some of you have interest in that, you can let us know. Very briefly, the house will be remodeled into 13 private bedrooms. All of our men will be coming from treatment centers. So they're all going to have been in a 30-day treatment program, just like they come to us now. And the beauty of it is if you know anybody who's been to treatment, or if you're in a 30-day treatment program, it's sort of like tenderizing the meat before it gets served, you know? It's because they're predisposed to following directions versus being an obnoxious drunk before that. They're pretty tame by the time we get them. They're typically compliant, and they're gotten used to for 30 days saying yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, because otherwise you get kicked out of treatment if you don't do that. So those who come to us tend to have a high desire to get sober. And like me, you know, what I told Father was, I said, I'm ready, you know, I'll crawl over broken glass on a hot tar road if that's what it's going to take. But frankly, I spent 2 years before that bouncing around like a crappie flopping on a dock, you know, trying to do it my way, and it just didn't work. Everybody else knew I had a problem before apparently I did. We'll have an on-site manager. Every one of our men will have a psych eval, so we're going to be working with Mayo as well as the United Health Group down there. They'll have a psych eval because we want an independent person to say, is this guy ready to come and play nice in the sandbox with us? They'll be assigned a personal mental health counselor, and they'll be expected to manage to their protocol to manage their PTSD. We also believe that spirituality or connecting to some type of a higher power is critical for staying sober. So we've got a spiritual coach. We're also going to, what I call sneaky therapy. So each man will have a dog assigned to them, and they'll be responsible for taking care of that dog. And if any of you have been involved with any type of animal therapy, what happens is you get better whether you want to or not, right? Because if you're responsible to get your out of bed in the morning and go take care of that animal, plus I'm pretty sure that the dog is going to lick their face a lot more than their spiritual coach or their mental health counselor is going to. And might also get a little bit more love. They're also going to be required to work or volunteer 30 hours a week, just like our men, and then we're also going to be assigned house chores. Now, I did a little stint as a college professor for a while, and I've learned there's different adult learning styles. So far, this has been very good for you left-brain folks who are more analytical in your approaches. So I'm going to go for you right-brain folks. Here's the picture version. So they're going to come to us out of treatment. They're going to get a psych eval. They're going to have to talk to a coach as well as a mental health counselor. They're going to get assigned a dog. They're going to have to get a job. We're going to do hydroponic farming, which is one of our options. And they're going to end up doing chores. Probably not as happy as this guy, but they're all going to have to do that. How does that work? Did you like that? Does that work? Okay, good. All right. So next is I'm going to pass it back to Holly, who's going to talk to you a little bit about next steps. And then what we're going to do is open it up for Q&A. So I'm just going to turn it back over to Holly, and I think Paul is going to, I think she's going to tee it up.
Okay. Well, yeah, 1 minute. You see this gentleman, you can only see part of him on the screen. His name is Jack Zimmerman. He is a veteran, and he lost both his legs in Afghanistan. He is the most remarkable young man that you will ever meet. And he has not only come on board with Bravo Zulu House, but he is now the chair of our House Advisory and Implementation Team. He wanted to be here today, but unfortunately couldn't. But I'm just going to read one little thing of a quote that he said. I'm very humbled, and I absolutely embrace being part of this great mission of helping my struggling military brothers. The Bravo Zulu House model is long overdue, much needed, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Bravo Zulu homes all over the country. He did send a little clip to bring his greetings. Paul, can you run that?
Hey everybody, sorry I couldn't be there in person today. My name is Jack Zimmerman. I was catastrophically wounded in Afghanistan after stepping on IED, where I lost both of my legs and severely wounded both of my arms. I was medevaced back to San Antonio, where I endured 20 operations and rehab for 18 months. After moving back to Minnesota, I became a motivational speaker and wrote the book 5 Minutes, 300 Seconds That Changed My Life, where I talk about building your attitude and shaping your perspective so one day when your life does flash before your eyes, it's worth watching. One of the chapters in my book is every day is a chance to impact a life, and that's exactly what the Bravo Zulu House is. It gives us a chance every day to impact somebody's life by supporting this mission, giving us the first opportunity at the first all-military sober house, where guys can transition from rehab back into the civilian world through Bravo Zulu.
I don't know, was that the end? Okay, that's the end. But you can see how excited he is about that and how he really lays it out exactly at what we're trying to do here. So, if you would like to help, one of the easiest ways is just follow us. Just watch what's going on, please. And you can do that by just texting, keep me posted on your progress, and we'll put you in the loop. Or you can go to our website. You can also email, but you can go to our website and we'll give you that information in a minute. Now, this is a favorite of mine, and I hope it will be a favorite of yours because it's a project that I could see Rotary being the sponsor of, and that is the dog program. Now, there's a lot of pieces to this program. I'm not trying to raise money today, but I want to give you an idea of what we could do. There will be a kennel similar to what that is, hopefully with, we have a little bigger plan, 12 dogs. We have a trainer already lined up. She is a dog trainer who is also a vet and works in this field now, and she is going to help with training the dogs. Now remember, we're not talking about military dogs. These dogs aren't going to be searching for bombs, God forbid, you know. They're going to be loving the men that they're serving. And it's sort of a win-win. So we're looking to adopt dogs, you know, which will also help. We're going to bring in dogs from various organizations, various shelters, and each man will be assigned a dog. This is an opportunity for Rotary to help with this program, whether it be dog food, dog equipment, heating the kennels for the winter time, actually building the kennel. It actually comes kind of pre-built, but it's, you know, getting the kennel. There's a number of things that we can do, or organizations that you may know or be part of that are in the pet area that could help us. So that's what I'd like to lay out today. We have a year to plan this. I am going to be taking the lead on this along with the Fairmont Rotary Club, which Tim now belongs to, and is the closest club to the Bravo Zulu House. And by the way, they are in our district. Now, Mankato, that we've also spoken to, is in the other district. But that's another opportunity because there's a whole bunch of clubs over on that side that could help us as well. So I hope you'll come on board and help us with Bravo Zulu House.
So my guess is there's some questions. So I've asked Holly to stay up here, and I'll handle the easy ones, and she'll take the tough ones. So some of you may have some questions on your line. Mike?
My name's Mike Lewis, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Mike.
Through the grace of God, I've been able to stay sober for 49 years.
Woo!
And I'm I suffer from PTSD, along with a lot of my brothers and sisters from Vietnam. I was fortunate. I went through treatment at St. Mary's years ago, and I had a sponsor that helped me get sober. But without something like Bravo Zulu for our veterans that is focused, that is directed, that has got an incredible outcome based on the Trinity House, I'm just begging you people to get involved with Bravo Zulu. You're saving lives. My son-in-law was an oncologist, brilliant doctor, died by suicide 3 years ago. It hurts. It hurts. I'm on the VA hospital once a week for treatment, various things. And I just ask you to really consider doing this. I was a Rotarian 25 years. I'm a Paul Harris Fellow. I helped raise money for the Polio Plus program. Our goal, I think, for two of us at our club was $60,000, and we raised over $1 million. It can be done. It could be done. And Rotarians, I mean, is it the truth? Is it fair? Will it build good? Will. It does. It does. Tim, you're an amazing man, and the enthusiasm you bring to this program is incredible. And I thank you. I'm going to be on your advisory board. I'm going to continue to work with you. But I hope all of you men and women that would consider taking a small part and doing something with Bravo Zulu.
Thank you, Mike. You said that exactly the way I wrote it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
71%.
Yes, sir.
Pass is unbelievable.
Yeah, thank you.
What's your criteria?
In terms of how we measure that is our average length of stay is about 18 months, and we have some men that have lived with us for 5 years or more. So typically I run a census on January 1, and then I run a census on December 31st, and last year, 85% of the names that were on the left-hand side were on the right-hand side. And for those quantifiable quants in the group, I've got a rolling 12-month average spreadsheet that I can send to you that you'll see that at no time in the last 13 years has a 12-month average been lower than about 68.2%. So that's how we track it, and it's a legitimate question. And the numbers are so good that, sometimes they beg credibility, but, after 13 years, you start to realize, maybe we should start telling people about this. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Do the puppy dogs have to be specially trained, or they can just be from the pound?
Yeah, the question is, do the dogs have to be specially trained? The answer is no. These will not be service dogs. I'm learning a lot. There's a big difference between a trained dog and a service dog. So these are simply going to be dogs that are trained. The woman, Eva, who runs an organization called Paws for Cause, she's a Army veteran. She actually runs the Humane Society for Faribault County. So we'll be signing a contract with her. She'll be helping us make sure the dogs are, basically trained, but she'll also be matching the personalities of dogs to the men. So we might be switching dogs out. They have what's called a swap program with a number of humane societies around the region, so that if sometimes some family might buy a dog and they're like, oh, let's buy a Rottweiler for our 300 square foot apartment. And then they show up at the Humane Society, and, the Humane Society will be like, well, how about this Chihuahua, So they have what's called a swap program, which I didn't know about. So she'll be helping us do that in the event that we have a dog that's available and we have a new guy come in and maybe they're not a good fit. I don't quite understand it. Sounds cool to me, but that's where we're going to just trust the partners that we're going to work with. Yeah.
When I said training, I was talking about obedience training. So the dogs are manageable. I have a 6-pound toy poodle, and I had to put her through that too.
Actually, for any of us who have been through those, it's actually owner training. It's not dog training.
But it creates the bond. If you get the guy working with the dog, just doing that creates a bond between them. And as the dog gets trained and learns to obey, it actually is wonderful for your self-esteem. My dog will come when I call him, or sit. And believe it or not, it's therapy.
So I realize we're pushing up against our time, so give me the hook, otherwise we're going to keep taking questions. Go ahead.
Is the plan to keep the dogs in an outdoor kennel?
So the kennels will be inside of there's already an existing Quonset hut there. We'll build the kennel inside the Quonset hut, and according to, think of it as best practices. So this will be a world-class facility, and whatever the definition of a world-class facility is for kenneling dogs, we'll have that. So they'll have an indoor run, they'll have an outdoor run, they'll have water, they'll have, whatever the right thing to do is. So we want to be a role model for the country, so if any news show shows up or anybody, and trust me, in 13 years, occasionally people will show up with pitchforks and torches, so we welcome critics to come in because they can show us maybe so we got some weak spots. But the idea would be is that we'd have a world-class kennel operation that would be the envy of anybody who has that many dogs. Yes, sir.
The VA, if you had an affiliation with what does the VA think?
Well, if anybody could help me with this, so if you're familiar with working with large governmental organizations, it's a lot better to bring them data than it is an idea. So right now, I'm sort of getting the yeah, come back to us when you're real. So, which I get, trust me. But if any of you have access to key decision leaders over there, I'm getting the big Heisman, so I could use some help. In the meantime, I just like to go out and do it, bring the data back and say, don't you think you guys should get behind this, right? So that's going to take us about 2 years. So with 2 years worth of data, assuming it shows like this, I think it'll be hard-pressed to be in the boardroom with anybody who's going to say, nah, we don't want anything to do with this, right? Yeah. Joe's about to tackle me here. Go ahead.
If the veteran bonds with the dog, will there ever be an opportunity for the veteran to take the dog?
Yep. So I love the fact that of all the things we talk about, it's always the dogs, right? It's like, we're trying to help the vets, okay? But sure. The answer is yes. However, just like anything else, ask me in 2 years and I'll tell you what the right answer is. But I can certainly see a situation where the guy bonds with the dog and the guy leaves and he says, hey, can I take my dog with me? The answer is absolutely. Pretty sure we can find another dog for the next guy who's going to come in, right? So some guys might not. And part of what we're going to work on is apparently dogs go through grief if they bond with somebody. So we have a program for that, reassigning them to a new man. So, we'll work through that. I love it. The dogs always do. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Tim, you forgot your shirt here. By the way, I have one quick question for you. Bravo Zulu. It sounds like a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
What's the meaning behind the name?
Navy guys? Job well done.
Okay,
it's a Navy term.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Didn't know that. At this time, we'd like to finish off the program here with the Area 3 Rotary Veterans Day. Let's bring up Nick Rogers, who put this event together here in Eden Prairie.
Thanks, and I'll be quick so you can get back to work, or maybe I should take my time. We'll see. But thanks. I'm Nick Rogers. I'm the current president of the Eden Prairie Noon Rotary Club. We were happy to host the event here. Just wanted to say some very quick thanks. First, I know maybe another round of applause for the Bear Pass staff. They were fantastic to work with. Great service, so really appreciate everything they did to help make this event. And then many people that volunteered their time, the brass band, the VFW, the high school singers, all of our speakers, and all of our president-elects who helped put this together, and Mr. Paul Peterson himself running the slides here like the true rock star he is. And then, of course, last but not least, all the veterans that were able to be here today, and all the veterans that are in our lives that weren't able to be here. Thanks for your service, and thanks for everything you've done for us and our country. And so to close, before everyone departs, we're going to ask the VFW to retire the colors. Afterwards, you're welcome to socialize for a few minutes, ask more questions of Tim. But thanks again, and look forward to seeing you all next year. And please rise. Great. Thank you all again, and have a wonderful rest of your day.